Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani,
And I'm Sam.
and we are going to have another new kind of case. It's a case that I despise, but I'm going to go over it anyway.
Ooh,
You'll know why at the end.
okay.
We'll talk about it.
Can I just start off by saying I can't stop thinking about our last case.
Yeah,
It's nonstop on my mind.
I know, and I haven't even put it all together for you.
Oh my gosh.
I know,
I've literally called you 3 times probably
probably.
thinking about it in random times.
That's okay. It's going to be crazy when we put it finally all together, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. All right, let's begin.
Okay.
In the spring of 1992, 6 people were murdered along the I-70 corridor in less than a month. The spree began on April 8, 1992 in Indianapolis, Indiana. Robin Foldauer, a 27-year-old manager at a Payless shoe store, was the first victim. Another manager called into the store and was unable to get anyone to pick up, so he called the gas station next door, getting in touch with one of their employees, Lucretta Gullett, who went to Payless. And according to her, when she walked in, she saw the cash register open and immediately called the police. She then went further into the store, found a mother and child just looking at shoes, unaware that anything was amiss. Lucretta said she asked them to step out because something wasn't right. Continuing in the store, she went to the back and encountered a shut door, and something told her not to enter.
That gut.
Yeah.
That gut instinct.
Gut instinct. Instead, she exited the building and waited for police to come. Police arrived at approximately 2:20 p.m. and went through the door that was shut, finding Robin deceased.
Oh.
Autopsy would later show that she had been shot twice in the head at close range.
Oh my gosh. And mom and daughter just shopping for their little shoes. No idea.
And as others were in the store so quickly at the time in which contact was lost and Lucretta showed up, it's believed that the killer stayed in the store less than 15 minutes.
Okay.
Which is really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Detective Mike Crook was assigned as lead detective on her case, and Mike calls Robin's sister still every year on the anniversary of her death.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Not for good reasons, just to check in with her and let her know that she's not forgotten, but the case isn't solved.
Oh.
Which is why I don't like it.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm not an unsolved case kind of girl.
No.
I like my open and shut.
Although there's a little bit about it that does intrigue the person who's maybe doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we solve it.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. We don't have enough information. So 3 days later, on April 11th, and 700 miles away in Wichita, Arkansas, a second person was murdered. At La Bride de Elegance, a bridal store, owner 32-year-old Patricia Majors and her 23-year-old assistant, Patricia Smith, were both murdered. The store was open late for a customer who needed to get a cummerbund when the pair were killed. Patricia's husband said that there was a panic button at the front desk that was never touched. This led investigators to believe the assault again happened quickly and that somebody had surprised the pair. Both were shot in the back of the head, and cash was again taken out of the cash register at this location. 2 customers were at the store at 6 p.m. and say they think the killer was actually in the store with them.
Oh.
Because there was a man in there. The 2 customers had left just prior. And so then the shooting occurred after they left and before the customer that needed the cummerbund showed up. And the gentleman who came in for the cummerbund ended up as the first eyewitness to this murder. He told police he knew something was wrong when the person inside the store, which was a male, tried to lure him into the back room. And he kind of talked his way out. He just no, that's kind of odd, and walked his way out of the store. He said that the guy had come from the back. And the witness stated that he knew the guy had a gun and simply said he didn't want any part of what was happening. And he left and called the police.
Whoa. So this man now has 2 eyewitnesses who have seen him.
So the women that were in the store, because it was 2 women that were in the store, originally, and it sounds like they didn't really get a good look at the guy. They just knew that there was somebody else in the store as they were leaving, and they think that it was him
Right.
because of how close it was to, um,
The time that it
yeah.
happened. Yeah.
Hmm. So I don't think they gave an eyewitness statement. But there was a sketch that ended up coming about all of this.
Yeah.
Hmm. After this, the killer moved next to Terre Haute. On April 27th, 40-year-old Michael McGowan, the owner of Sylvia's ceramic shop, was shot in the back of the head. Michael was kneeling, stocking the store shelves when he was shot, and he is the only known male victim of the I-70 killer. And police believe the assailant thought it would be a female inside based on the name of the shop and the fact that this guy had like long hair and a slender build.
Mm.
They think that he thought that that was a female that he killed. The only thing taken from the scene was Michael's wallet and about $50 of cash. And family says that Michael gave the best hugs and that there's no closure because all they want is him back after this
Oh,
happening. I
for
know.
$50. Like,
I don't think it was. So most people think it wasn't about the money. It
right.
was just about the killing, which makes sense because I mean, just the cash registers are open and that's it.
I mean, the money's still in them, or
I don't know. It doesn't ever say, but I'm guessing he took
right.
it to make it look like a robbery, but
Hmm.
we don't know how much. Then on May 3rd, Nancy Kitzmiller was killed in St. Charles, Missouri. She was working at Boot Village and was shot in the back of the head as well. Nancy was filling in for another employee at the time she was killed.
Oh no.
I know. Detective Don Stepp took the case, and he continues to think of this case even years after.
It makes you never want to pick up a shift for someone.
I know. Every time I pick up a shift at work, something bad happens. I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
I know.
That's when the codes happen. That's when people go crazy. And I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be here today.
At least you're not getting murdered.
There's time. In the realm we work nowadays, are you sure about that?
You just never know. Yeah, that's so true.
Just slowly crushing my soul. That's
Yeah.
fine. On May 7th, the killer went to Raytown, Missouri, and Sarah Blessing, a clerk at a novelty store, was shot in the back of the head again at this store. This store was in a strip mall, one in which there were stores like lined up all on the outside, like were the doors.
Hmm.
And in this case, Tim Hickman owned the store next to the novelty store. And he said that he saw a guy in a sport coat walking and kind of checking out shops. And within a few minutes, the guy stepped up to the curb and looked into his store. And Tim said that the two made eye contact and the guy looked shocked to see him. And he thinks that the reason this happened is because Tim had sent home his mother and sister about 10 to 15 minutes just before that. So
Oh,
there were two females in the shop. And then he was like, it's a slow day. You can go.
yeah.
I'll just be in the shop by myself.
So he had probably cased the place a little
Mhm.
bit, expected there to be
It to be
women
women.
inside.
And then this dude looks up at him like, hi,
Mm.
what do you want? So, um,
I can't think of a worse place to go than at work. Like, I think about that whenever I hear that, like someone dies at work. Did you hear about the woman at Wells Fargo who like died at her desk in Arizona recently?
and
And
then was
was,
there for days because nobody checked on her.
yeah,
How horrible.
how
Yes, I
how
did.
horrible. And then also it's just like that's how you die. Like going into your 9 to 5 job that you do all the time and
Yeah,
you die there. It's
that
awful.
it's horrible. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, he said that, um, where was I? Where was I?
I distracted you.
I know you did. Oh, that he had been prowling earlier, like I said, so he thinks that he saw the two women. The man then, after seeing Tim, just took a left and took off down the sidewalk. And Tim started working on a TV when he heard, and about 2 to 3 minutes later, after seeing that man, he heard a pop noise and he knew it was a gun, or at least that's what he thought it sounded like. And so Tim grabbed his own 38 and looked out his door and saw the novelty store door closing and the guy with a sport coat like turn the corner. So Tim says that he sprinted to the back of his own shop and opened the door, but didn't see where the guy went
Hmm.
because he had like turned to go towards the back side of the mall. After that, he grabbed his phone because again, this isn't cell phone time.
Right.
This is hardline, so he had a cordless phone. And he ran to the novelty shop, opening the door and calling for Sarah. And he saw her feet and knew what happened. And so he immediately called the police. And Tim managed to give a description, which resulted in another composite sketch of the perpetrator. But even with the composite sketch, the 6 cases all went cold.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because this person feels sloppy.
Yeah. And Tim was like very emotional about it. And there's like a video interview, you could just tell he was heartbroken because he's like, what if I just would have reacted earlier with that guy looking in my own shop and stuff? And I'm like, you couldn't have known what he
Right.
was going to do.
You can't pull out a gun and just shoot
Yeah.
someone that
Yeah.
you're suspicious of, right?
So, felt for him.
Yeah.
Shortly after, all the cases were linked by the gun they were killed with. And the gun was an Irma. I don't think I'm going to say this right. It's an Irma Workgay model ET-22. It's a German Navy World War II pistol, okay?
Whoa.
So it's like a longer looking pistol, but I guess people were surprised that it was used because they said that it wasn't like, even back in the day, it wasn't a very reliable pistol. And so people are like, that's really surprising that was used, but not much beyond the ballistics was left that was of evidentiary value at the time. And unfortunately, after the murder of Sarah Blessing, the media did release the information about the gun. And that all the crimes were linked. And after that, the killer went silent, they think, or at least he didn't use.
He switched the gun.
The same gun.
Right.
However, in the mid-90s in Texas, there were a string of shootings similar to these 6, and they are believed to have been committed by the same perpetrator. However, cannot be positively linked to the I-70 killer because there's no ballistics match or anything like that. So in 1993 to 1994, 3 women were shot using similar methods, like I said. On September 25th, 1993, Mary Ann Glassrock was killed in an antique store in Fort Worth. Then November 1st, Amy Hess was shot at the Dancer's Closet, which is a clothing store in Arlington. I know. You had that look. No, It's a clothing store. Calm down.
Well.
She managed to crawl to a phone and call 911 before succumbing to her injuries.
Oh, wow.
Because she had been shot, and it ended up hitting her neck rather than like the full back of the head. On January 15th, 1994, Vicki Webb was shot at a gift shop in Houston, and she is the only survivor. Prior to the event, she said that a man was outside looking between 2 shops before entering hers. That he had asked about an item, they had kind of discussed something, and then he, kind of moved away as if he was browsing. And she was getting ready to close up the shop at 4 p.m. and didn't even hear him like walk up behind her. She said that she just heard the pop and realized that she was slowly like falling to the ground. And that was, she's like, it like didn't, how when I feel like your body, you have adrenaline and stuff, that everything feels slow motion.
Yeah.
So she said that she felt like she was just slowly, she could have just dropped, but she felt like she was slowly just like falling.
Right.
And she hit the ground, and she said after the shot, she kept her eyes closed, thinking that she knew he wanted her dead if he just walked up to her and shot her.
Absolutely.
And so she was going to act like she was dead. She was breathing shallow because she ended up face down. And so she was having a hard time anyway, but he rolled her over and it unintentionally helped her breathe a little bit easier. And she said that he put the barrel to her forehead and pulled the trigger, and the gun just clicked instead of going off, and he just started laughing and left.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's like, I was just about to say he didn't like play any games with these victims, like he just walks up behind them, it sounds like, and shoots them. Like there's no like, get on your knees, beg for your life.
He doesn't say at least she said that he didn't say anything. He just walked up and shot her.
Which is just like not sort of what I was expecting. I guess the timeline in itself makes me think, obviously, he doesn't have a lot of time to do that. He's less than 15 minutes in and out. But he's not playing with them. But then the fact that he does that is evil.
Yeah. And it's crazy that because none of the other victims, it doesn't sound like, were rolled over. So the fact that he rolled them rolled her. Maybe he knew that he didn't hit the same spot, or maybe after the previous victim had managed to crawl a distance, which I'm sure was all over the media,
Right.
that he did that. And then when it clicked, he just sort of was like, well, that's it.
Crazy.
I know.
What type of gun did he use for the Texas victims? Does it say?
Mm-mm. This one they didn't give ballistics.
I
So
wonder
we
if it
don't
was
know.
like,
But they said that it was another small caliber. That's all we got out of it.
yeah, I was wondering if it's like another sort of unique gun.
Yeah. I don't know.
Hmm.
Probably not if they didn't announce it.
Yeah,
Or maybe they realized it was probably not a smart decision.
it wasn't that smart of a decision.
No.
I mean, I guess in a sense, though, if it's that unique, potentially there might be that one person that watches the news and goes, "Oh, doesn't Gary have
Hmm.
that gun?"
I
Like,
I think I put it in here later where that was one of their thoughts was the police were like, well, they think that he has like a tie to this gun, like a family tie, or he
right,
got it, or there's a story and he loves this gun.
right,
That's why you would use something that's unreliable, and maybe, he's talked to a friend about it, or somebody knows something that would lead to the identification of him through the gun.
yeah.
But that just didn't happen.
Hmm.
And then in 2001, a 7th and 70 liquor store clerk, Billy Brossman, was working alone, and the killer entered and went to the back, ensuring nobody else was there. Then he walked to the front and pulled out a gun, getting all the money from the cash register. He then had the clerk walk to the back of the shop, and as he got there, the assailant shot him in the back of the head. So this is the second, if we're thinking it's the same killer, this would be the second male. And there is video evidence, like you can clearly see the killer's face in it, like he didn't hide anything, because there's cameras at the shop.
That's a like decent amount of time
Yeah.
later. It's
Hmm.
almost 20 years from, or 10 years, I guess, from the
Yeah,
first
well,
one.
yeah, the 90s and then
Yeah,
2001.
but
This murder also hasn't been linked because of that.
right.
Um,
That one feels a little more of like like an outlier.
I think the reason they included it is because he did the same thing where he has them open the cash register, the cash is taken out, and then they're taken to the back of the shop and shot.
Yeah,
Because the original ones were in the back of the shops.
yeah. And in the back of their head too, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. 29 years later, on November 23rd, 2021, a joint task force was set up in St. Charles in an attempt to finally solve these crimes, hoping to use skin cell DNA from items that were touched that might produce some evidence that wasn't available with the technology
Hmm.
back in 1992. They also set up a hotline for tips, and over 100,000 came in.
Whoa.
Hmm. The FBI collaboration states that the killer likely had a sexual component to these killings, although no women were actually sexually assaulted. In addition, they believe the killer, oh yeah, so like I said, had a special connection with the gun, used it, that was used in the original murders, particularly because the gun wasn't reliable and when it was originally commissioned, so they believe it's a family heirloom.
Yeah. There would have to be,
Something.
for
Yeah.
whatever reason. My brain goes to that. He was like a neo-Nazi or something. Like, I just feel like, why use this like unreliable German gun unless you weren't like incredibly proud of
I
your,
would lean more towards the family heirloom because if it's unreliable, I feel like you wouldn't want to use it unless there was some special attachment to it.
yeah,
Um, Even I don't think that the Nazi portion. I mean, it could have a part. I have no idea, but I would definitely think that they would use modern unless it was something special to them.
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I am German, so I'm not just instantly throwing German engineering into the
Sure,
Nazi category.
sure.
So,
I heard that.
so just want to make that clear. But, you know,
Yeah.
if the shoe fits, you're just blindly murdering people, then maybe there's a connection there.
Yeah, potentially. We don't know. If
Who
not
knows?
solved. In 2024, Harry Greenwell became the lead of this group, and Harry was identified or became a lead, not a lead of the group. Good night. I can talk today. I'm just
Well,
gonna go. Sorry, guys. That's it for today. Oh,
stay
okay.
tuned for part two next week.
Harry was identified as the I-65 killer. He's accused of killing 3 women along the I-65 corridor in the 1980s, which would be years before the first murders for the I-70 killer.
Right.
But again, it was along like highways,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of all of these places were right off the I-70 highway. They said the sketch was similar. And the I-65 killer did target women, and he did shoot them in the head with a handgun. So there's similarities, according to Kim Rhodes, a detective with the St. Charles Police Department. Still, as of this time, the case remains unsolved. And while the task force states they hope some of the ballistics may lead to DNA evidence as of this time, nothing has been successful. And currently, there is a $25,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the I-70 killer. And anyone with information about the slayings is asked to contact the St. Charles Police Department. And that reward remains in place.
100,000 people
100,000
submitted
tips. Yeah.
tips.
And nothing so far.
I mean, that's a lot of tips to weed through. And every police station always says we take every tip seriously.
Well, it's a task force, so it's not
Right.
just the St. Charles Police Department.
Right.
It's the various departments around it, and the FBI is involved, which adds a little more manpower. So I would think that they would be able to get through it. And there's also, so they have the original sketch, and then they have kind of, you know how when missing kids are there, they'll age
Right.
them.
Right.
So they've kind of age progressed this photo to what they think that he might look like now.
Yeah, I mean,
based on the original sketch.
AI could do that really well now too.
Oh my god, I don't even want to hear it with your AI
I know,
nonsense.
but I'm just saying
Stop.
it
No,
it is
whatever.
going to have a huge part to play
I
in
know.
solving crimes
I
in the
know it is.
future.
But I'm saying right now, there's an age sketch out, okay?
Okay, I hear
So
you.
you should see them side by side.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, just 100,000 tips to me is like so difficult to wrap my head around.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess he literally went up and down the middle of the country. So you're just gonna create like urban legends around this man.
Yeah.
In a sense, like any small store shop owner is gonna remember the time that in 1992 you
Somebody was
potentially,
prowling.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then everyone's gonna have their theories and their thoughts and
But how ominous was that the guy, first of all, was even doing it that way, where he would look, like the one lady said that he looked between 2 shops before going in hers. Like, I don't know. That just feels weird.
it is weird. He definitely had his.
He was definitely casing, and he was definitely going after. I think most of the women were like taller brunettes, I believe, is kind of the big,
Is that why they think there's like a sexual component to it? Is
because they're all the same.
yeah,
I don't know if it's because they're all the same or because it's all women, except for the 2 outliers, one that's not positively linked, and the one that they said when he was bent down, he had, slender
Yeah.
figure, long hair, and might have just been mistaken. And the ceramic shop had the name Sylvia, so
Right.
might have assumed that it was a female there.
I feel like the women thing, I mean, FBI profilers go to college and study this their whole life, so they have a much better understanding than clearly Sam Schulte. But I feel like women to me just seems like an easy target. Like it doesn't necessarily mean it's like sexually linked as much as it's misogynistic, potentially.
Yeah, I can see the misogynistic, and it's the scare factor.
Right.
Because we're already so vulnerable. I mean, you think about it, we have to carry mace and keys in our hands, and
Right.
we're always taught not to go hiking alone and all these other things, and then they get killed in their shops in the middle of working hours.
Yeah. Like
And
some of these times happen like broad daylight
yeah,
too.
mm-hmm. A lot of them are like closer to like the noon, 2 o'clock, where there's potentially people that could walk in at any second and see this.
Yeah.
And there's people around, like the guy Tim in the other shop, who heard it.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's for the money.
No, it feels like it's a scare factor.
It's a scare factor. It's like a weird power thing.
Probably. This man's probably hates women.
Yeah.
He probably had a mom that he hated that looked like these women.
Mhm.
I feel like that's where it starts. Bad girlfriend or a mom that they couldn't get along with, and that's what they look like.
Yeah.
The brunette, that's all they need to have. Just
Yeah.
their qualifier.
Just take back his power.
Ugh, yes. So ridiculous. People are ridiculous. But at this time, like I said, it is unsolved, which I hate.
It also is interesting that, like, in 2024, they have this manpower behind this case now.
hmm Well, they had, in the things that I have read about it, and there was like a documentary on it and kind of like going over it, a lot of these detectives have seen this case for years. And then there's a couple of detectives that took over and they were like, we really want to take another look at this. And that's kind of how the 2024 got started, was one of them being like, I want to take a look at this case again. And the lead of the department was like, well, if you're going to take a look, you're going to do it right. And we're going to put something together to see if we can finally solve this. You're not just going to look at it on your off time. Like, that'll be what you
Right.
do. So they were really trying to, fresh eyes, big push. And a lot of the detectives who were on there have since retired. And some of them, I think, had come back for the task force to try and help with their knowledge of what had happened originally. And like I said, most of these guys keep in touch with their families, and
Yeah.
still it's on their mind. One of the ones that got away, which
Mm.
I'm sure is tough.
It is tough, especially when it does feel so sloppy to me.
hmm
But I guess you're sort of a ghost in the day,
hmm
right? Like,
Yeah. And if
you,
you're not really touching anything, and at that time, we didn't have all of the like
right.
CCTV that we have nowadays, which would be much harder to get away with it. But still, people get away with things.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible. I'm sure he probably wouldn't have done it the same way with all the cameras in
Oh,
there
he would
now.
be caught so
Yeah.
quickly. Just even
Fingers
getting
crossed.
in a car
Yeah.
and
So,
driving away. There's cameras at the parking lots of these,
hmm
all of these little strip malls,
hmm
and
well, in the first one and the one with Tim, because he's walking away from the scene, it is indicative that he parked his car at least away from these areas.
mm,
So he just walked away after shooting somebody and then got into his car later. Um, I think in the first shooting, they think that he was actually parked in a residential neighborhood because it was so close to where the Payless was. They're like, yeah, he was probably just parked on the side of the road. He wasn't parked in the parking lot. Nobody saw a car leave.
yeah.
And the gas station, I think, might have had cameras that would have caught it if he had parked in the parking area. So he wasn't parked there.
So he thought about all of these too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he was picking stores that had females in them,
hmm
which I can't imagine there's like a. No, I'm not going to finish that.
No, don't finish that thought. But then, like a bridal store
Right,
would have been more likely to have one. They
right.
had a ceramic shop, they had the shoe store. At the time, all more likely to have women than
Women in
men.
them.
hmm
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
what I was going to say was misogynistic myself.
see, oh my, Sam,
Can't be a
no.
lot of women small business owners out there. That's what I was going to say. That's so wrong.
That is very
I
wrong.
know.
That's horrible.
I know.
Oh
I
my
don't
gosh.
believe it either.
Okay, we're before Sam gets off on a tangent, we get in trouble. We're totally ending this. So,
That's fair. Thanks for saving me.
so to all those out there listening, be careful. It's a dangerous world we live in.